Alright guys, today I've got a couple of games for you on the One Piece simulator. These games aren't live, they were recorded, so there'll be a voiceover on it to kind of guide you guys through what's going on. But we're playing Nico Robin today. It's been my favorite leader that's come out in a while, and I just wanted to showcase a couple of games that I felt like were really fun to play. So, oh, hi, cat in play. Without any more being said, we'll go ahead and get into the games. But thank you guys for being here, so we'll get going. Alright, so first game, we got Purple Luffy going on. So, at this point early in the game, I'm just going to try to build my hand as quickly as possible. Try to get as many counters in hand as I can, because I know how fast Purple Luffy is. First couple of turns are kind of slow though. I don't really get going until the second turn usually, because if I can use Dareshi I can get some more counters to my hand or search for what I need. So I just let this attack go through. Early game it's not that big of a deal because I have ways to rebuild my life later. So to see what I mean by quick, with Black Maria, he's already up. Alright, so I drew Dareshi. So go ahead and use that. Grab two 2K counters, which is usually my go-to strategy for that card. Go ahead and get in for the attack so we can ramp. He counters out, doesn't really matter. And then he's taking his sweet time making a decision. Okay, he's going in for the attack. Go ahead and counter out of that. Alright, at this point I've got a couple of things I can do. We're going to go ahead and get the Sanji out. Return one card. And then we're going to rest the Zoro. And then we'll try to get an attack through with Nico Robin so we can go ahead and trash and ramp again. He counters. Go in with Sanji. I'm going to try to get rid of the Zoro here. He counters out, so it's alright. He's going to come in with the Zoro. Trying to debate on whether or not I should counter out or just let the attack go through. So we will counter that with you're the one that should disappear. Give plus 3k power and then trash a card from your hand. He's going to come in with that. Go ahead and counter out. At this point I'm down to 2 cards in hand, but so is he. So I'm hoping that maybe on the next turn I can get some stuff going. Probably going to go ahead and drop the 9-drop Luffy. Return of Dawn. Give him Rush. I drew another Sanji, so if we have another turn, that'll be pretty good. So we're going to continue to try to get rid of this Zoro here. Going with Luffy. Gets rid of the blocker. Going with Sanji. Counters out. So I know he's only got 1 card in hand now, so he can't have too much going on. So now I'll try to go in for life. Don't need to ramp here, so I'll skip that. At this point, he's probably trying to really think through what he's going to do, because the only thing he really can do is pump and attack, which is what he does. He's going to try to get rid of my Sanji. At this point, I think we just let this go through. Yep. So he'll probably pump and try to go in for the Luffy. That's what I would do. So we'll counter out of that, because I definitely want to keep Luffy. Draw. We'll go ahead and deploy Sanji. Use his card action, Return to Dawn, give him Rush. We'll rest Black Maria, since there's nothing else to rest. $10K from Luffy. There's no way he can counter out of this. $7K from Sanji. And then we'll go in with the 8 with Robin. So this game's been pretty straightforward. Not every game is like this. I seem to have really good games against Purple Luffy. I don't know if this deck just counters it pretty well or what, but it seems to do pretty well against Purple Luffy. So he's going to try to get me for a life here with his leader. At this point, I'll probably just let it go through. Counter out. So I'm down to no cards in hand. He's at 5. And he's going to drop the big boy Luffy. He Dawn -10, so he sent everything back to his hand. Or back to the trash, excuse me, or back to the deck. I can't remember exactly which one that card does. I'm pretty sure he's kind of stuck at this point, because even if he gets rid of, you know, 1 character, I've still got 2 to back it up, depending on what I draw as well. So he gets rid of Luffy. Plays a blocker. Comes in, so I drew Miss Hall Sunday. Not super helpful, but I will go ahead and use the trigger. Lets me draw another card. I drew the Nami, so worst case scenario, I can use Nami next turn and get rid of the blocker. Draw. 2 Namis, actually. So I'm going to try to go in here to see if I can force the block. which it does. And then I'll go in here for the rest, and if he doesn't counter out, I can take the game here. If not, I can take it regardless with Robin. So that's it for that one. So we'll move on to game 2. That was a pretty straightforward win. Game 2 is another Purple Luffy player. Different leader, same character, oddly. So we got a decent starting hand here. Blocker, 2 2K counters, Nami and Big Mom. So we'll probably keep that. So with this deck, I'll go ahead and throw out a blocker because I know how aggressive this Luffy can be. Going for an attack. Pitch that, gain a Dawn. I don't know why he didn't just counter out of that, but I guess he doesn't really care to take a damage that early on since he has 5 life. So he played the blocker kid. Kind of difficult to get around at certain points, but I have ways of getting rid of it. So at this point, I think we just need to put some Dawn on a character and maybe just go in for an attack, see if we can get an early damage in. So I'm just going to pile everything onto Robin and go in. And we'll trash that. Grab another Dawn. Just trying to figure out how to stack his counters here. And he takes the damage. Okay. So he's going to throw out Luffy. If I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, that Luffy lets you play another Straw Hat. Yep, Zoro. There's a reason that Purple Luffy's played a lot. He's pretty good. Anything fast like that is really, really good. So he's going to come in. Just going to go ahead and take the damage. Trigger effect here is pretty good. I can use that to get rid of Kid. Use that, get rid of Kid. So that's one way to get rid of a blocker. So we'll go ahead and drop Big Mom here. I'm going to heal one. Go ahead and gain a life off of that. And we'll go ahead and bounce the Zoro back to his life. Just go in here, try to get a damage in. See if I can get that banish on that Zoro. He doesn't, he counters out. So we'll see what he does here. I can't really remember right offhand. Alright, so he drops his Sanji of his own. Rests my blocker, which is not ideal. Attacks into my blocker. Pretty sure we just let this go through. No, we're going to counter out of it. Looking back, I probably should have just let the blocker go, but yeah. I definitely could have saved some resources if I just let that blocker go in the first place. Okay, so he gets rid of my blocker. And he doesn't attack with Luffy. So we'll draw, we'll go ahead and use Dareshi. Grab 2 counters to my hand. We'll go ahead and deploy Nico Robin. Trash the top of his life, so his Zoro's gone. We'll go in for our 6,000 on his leader to try to get a damage in. I'm sure he's got counters to that. Yeah. So he counters out of that. I'll go in with 9,000. Go ahead and try to get rid of Sanji. At this point, I'm just trying to make him waste every possible counter that he has. Got more pauses here. And feel free to let me know in the comments, guys, if you see any plays that, you know, I could have done better, or maybe there was something you would have done differently. I'm definitely new to this game in a competitive sense. I played Magic for years, played Yu-Gi-Oh for a while, played Pokemon for a while, but this is definitely up there on my tier list as far as favorite card games go. I'm really enjoying it. So he's going to come in with his Luffy. Get rid of my big mom. So at this point, I'm kind of low on resources. I'm just going to have to kind of pump and dump here to see if I can get some damage in, or see if I can get rid of some of his stuff. So we'll go in for 12k here on his Luffy, see if we can get rid of that. Dawn here, 9,000 into his leader, see if we can get a damage in. Definitely does. So at this point I have 6,000 power worth of counter in my hand, so that's pretty good. He's sitting on 1 life. Should be able to end this on the next turn, depending on what I draw. So he's going to try to get rid of my Nico Robin. So we'll just let that go through. And then he's probably going to try to hit my leader here, which I'll probably let go through. And depending on what the trigger I get off of it is, we might be able to get rid of that blocker. So he's going to come in, not going to block. Ironically, we got a Nami trigger, so we're going to use that trigger to go ahead and get rid of the blocker. Draw for turn. Go ahead and deploy another Sanji. I mean, he's got 4 cards in hand, so he could very easily have counters, but not really sure at this point. So we're going to go ahead and try to go in for 8k here. So he takes the damage. I'll go in with Sanji. And that's the win. So we'll move on to game 3 here. Alright, so we get another Purple Luffy. These are all recorded in the same day, which is hilarious because I just kept getting Purple Luffy players. I think this one's a little bit of a shorter game because at this point I've kind of learned how to play against this deck, so I kind of know what to do. So he's going to immediately come in for an attack. I'm not going to let that happen. So he's going to play out the Robin blocker. I'm going to go ahead and try to ramp a little bit here, so I'm going to drop Miss Double Finger. So we'll trash one card, and then we'll get an extra Dawn from her deck, and we'll just go in for here and see if we can get a life in early. And then we'll pitch to ramp. So we got rid of the blocker, which is nice. It's not a very good trigger effect, so I won't do that. I'll just keep her in hand. She's way more useful when played out. Alright, so we got a Dareshi. But at this point, I'm going to drop the Nami so that I can get rid of the blocker. I'll go ahead and Dareshi, grab 2 counters. And a Nami's always helpful to have in hand. And then we'll try to get a damage in. He counters out. He's going to try to come in again for 5k. We'll let it resolve just so we can get another card to our hand. Nothing really useful there, but it's a counter later if we need it. It's the Luffy combo. He can drop a free character, so he's going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and use the Nami to get rid of the Sanji. And then we've got a few attacks we can do here, so we'll go in for 6k on the leader. He's going to take the damage off of that. And then we'll go in for 7k on the leader with Nami. And he's going to go ahead and take that as well. And then I'll do 6k from my leader. He's probably going to counter out of that. Yeah, absolutely. He's going to try to get rid of my Nami. So we'll counter out of that. I think I misplayed a little bit there. I could have done that a different way, or just used "you're the one that should disappear." So he's going to try to come in on Nami again. I'm going to let him have it at this point. He's wasted both of his attacks trying to get rid of one character, so she did her job. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and drop Big Mom. Minus a Dawn. Trash card, gain a life. And then I'm not actually going to send anything to his life here. So I'm going to try to get in here for some damage. He counters out. We'll do the same thing with Nami. Playing very aggressively this game, which is... Normally I'm a little bit more defensive, but with this deck you kind of have to be aggressive. So he counters out of that. Plays another Zoro. So I've only got one card in hand, which is kind of terrible. So he's going to go in and try to get rid of Nami. Obviously we're going to let that go through. Zoro on Miss Double Finger. We'll let that go through. And he's going to come in for some damage. We'll let that go through. And we drew a Sol here, which I can use to get a free blocker, which is very helpful. So we'll go ahead and draw. We got another Sol. So I want to try to end the game as quick as possible here. So we'll go in for a 10k on his leader. Trying to think at his counters here. So he is going to counter out of that. Yeah. Gets it up to 11k, so he barely counters out. We've got a lot of Dawn to work with here. So we're going to try to go in for another 10,000 here, see if we can get a damage off. He can't counter out of that, so he takes the damage. We'll drop another blocker. Go ahead and end turn. Alright, so he's going to try to get in for some damage here. We're getting towards the end of the game here, so thank you guys for watching. Go ahead and let me know what you think of the games at the end here. Let me know what you think of the voiceover. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of doing it this way. I may just record the games live going forward and narrate that way. But yeah, if you stay tuned to the end here, I'll have the deck list at the end of the video. And feel free to let me know if you guys would change anything, for sure. So he's going to get rid of one of my blockers here. He's going to play Nami. So we're going to drop another Big Mom here. Go ahead and Dawn minus to heal. And he just gives up. So that's it for that. Alright, so here's the deck list that we're running. So I'm running 2 Miss All Sunday. I may end up taking these out just because I haven't really seen a whole lot of use for them. But they can provide you a little bit of ramp if you need it. Trigger's helpful. No counter though. I have 4 Miss Double Finger. She does have the on-play ability, trash 1 card from your hand, add up to 1 Dawn. So she has ramp. She's also a 2k counter, so she comes in really handy. And her trigger is pretty good as well. 4 of the 9 cost Lin Lin. She is incredibly helpful. She heals you. She also lets you get around a blocker if you need to. Just bounce it back to their life. And she's a 9k body, so she usually is the game winner. I can drop a couple of those and that just ties everything up. We have 3 of the 7 cost Sanji from OP-09. Also incredibly helpful. Return 1 or more Dawn cards to your deck. Against rush for the end of the turn, then you can rest up to a 6 cost or lower. Also helps you get around blockers. I'm thinking about pushing this up to a 4 of, maybe taking out one of the Miss All Sundays and bumping it up to 4 because it has come incredibly helpful. 9-drop Luffy. I used to run more of this in the deck, but it's essentially just a more expensive version of Sanji. Without being able to rest a blocker. So it's won some games, but not as many as Sanji has. I may up it again in the future, but I'm not real sure right now. 4 copies of Cabal Beige from OP-04. pretty obvious here. 2k counter, trigger up to one of your opponent's leaders or characters can attack during this turn. If you get the trigger off, incredibly helpful. Otherwise, trigger you can pitch for the leader effect, or 2k counter. 4 copies of Frankie from OP-07. Trigger, it's pretty good. Draw 1 card if you have 1 or less life. Play this card. Can be an easy body if you get the trigger. Also 2k counter. 4 copies of OP-08 Nami. She's got a 1k counter on play. Trash a card with a trigger. KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost 5 or less. Very, very helpful. Especially if you get it off as a trigger, because it's essentially just free at that point, other than taking a life. 4 copies of Professor Clover. It can be a searcher for trigger cards if you need it to be. Otherwise, it's just a trigger and a 2k counter. 4 copies of Nico Olvia. Pretty good if you need to get an attack off and you don't have any extra Dawn. She's also a 2k counter, but the trigger can be pretty helpful if needed. 4 copies of OP-09 Nico Robin. Just trash your opponent's life when it comes into play if they have 3 or more. Can be pretty helpful to get ahead if you can drop it early enough in the game, or if you get behind and you need to catch up, it can help you catch up pretty quickly as well. Also has a 1k counter, and I mean, it can be useful. 4 Jaguar D Sol. It's the blocker of the deck. It's the only blocker in the deck, and it's essentially free if it gets hit for a trigger, so it's not terrible. 4 copies of You're the One Who Should Disappear. This has saved me a lot since putting this in the deck. It's a counter, trash 1 card from your hand, leader, or up to one of your characters gets plus 3,000. I accidentally just removed that. Whoops. And then trigger if you have 0 life cards. Put the top card of your deck onto your pile and trash 1 card from your hand. So it's pretty good either way. And then last but not least, 4 copies of Dareshi. It's essentially a 3 cost that lets you add 2 more triggers to your hand. I usually use it to fill my hand with counters. It can definitely be used to cycle through your deck or search for something specific, but I mainly just use it for getting more counters in my hand. But that's it, guys. If you have any more questions, feel free to comment. If you have any suggestions on what to take out or add to the deck, please let me know as well. I'm fairly new to this game. I've been playing trading card games for a while, but I'm fairly new to this one, especially in a competitive sense. So yeah, feel free to let me know if you'd make any changes. And thanks for watching, guys. I really, really appreciate it.